Microcasting for your city, Talkapolis. Today's show is brought to you by locally owned and operated Signorama. The owner, Greg, is a great guy. He got us a temporary sign that we needed to get started. It was so great, it looked like the real one. But the finished one, it's made the whole set come alive. Give him a call at 615-678-6078. Signorama, ask for Greg. All right, I am your host, Greta Gaines, right here on Music Business Week at Talkapolis. Our guests this week are Barry McLeod and David Warren Reed. All right, welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here on the show. We have got so much to cover, but very quickly for our audience at home, just please tell everybody what your what your specialty is here in the music business.
I am a booking agent. I book a lot of major artists in town, but I also do the up-and-comers. The major artists need somebody to open up for them. I'm the guy to call. You know, I can get you there. Yeah. So, besides that, I am a songwriter and a publisher.
Great. So awesome. Lots to talk about there. And you?
Oh, God. I go back so far that my first gig, I was a waiter at the Last Supper. I'm a record producer, manager, award-winning journalist, photographer, actor, former recording artist. I guess I've pretty much wrote the book. Pretty much done everything really in this business.
Yeah. Well, fabulous. Well,
and did I add, I'm a friend of his?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, and did I add, I'm a friend of his.
That's great. We're all friends.
We're actually going to be the new Big and Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on something because something happened to me yesterday. Took up my entire day. A new level, a deeper level of scam that I thought was even capable. In other words, I got an invitation that said King's College invitation. They had gotten me off of a website where I'm a speaker, and they had written this really elaborate invitation for me to go to England, and they asked me what my fee would be, and I wrote back $2,000, and they wrote back and said, that's great, we're going to give you $3,000, $1,000 to cover your work permit, and all you got to do is go to Western Union and send the $1,000, and your whole speaking engagement will be taken care of. And it just went on and on and on. And I finally, after rereading the emails, it sort of did sound like a Nigerian person was maybe writing in English, and I got to the bottom. And of course, I put into the search engine King's College scam, and I found out that I had been the victim of this. But it's pretty devious, right, to like go that far into finding people?
But really, it's so blatantly obvious that I think that anyone who's experienced in this business would turn around and say, okay, number one is let's have a written contract.
They sent all the contracts. They had everything
signed
on British Embassy letterhead.
Well, it wouldn't be on a British Embassy letterhead.
It was.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be.
Right, but on the internet it looked like it.
Number two is where's the tickets?
It's all coming. They're promising you the hotel, the accommodations, they have the
There's
school.
a little phrase, right?
Yeah.
There is no contract for overseas until you have the tickets, the airline tickets in your hand.
Okay.
When you have the tickets in your hand, then you can say, well, at the very least, I can cash them in.
But, you know, you have to agree. I mean, even people in the business get scammed. I mean, even we do, because I have, in the booking agency, I have signed people up for a show, and, you know, for one reason or another, they have blocked out that certain amount of time for the show, and yet it didn't come to fruition because of their end, you know, the venue's end. You know, I did my due diligence, and they looked fine on the computer and the paperwork. But when it came down to getting the 50% up front and all this stuff, it didn't happen, and the reason being is because they were trying to scam us.
Well, yeah, but there you have the early, if you like, key that says no 50% up front, it isn't real.
Well.
And so, you know, I would say to the artist, pencil it in
Exactly.
until we see the money.
Exactly.
You know, you remember the phrase in Jerry Maguire, show me the money.
Oh, yeah.
And that really is true with any contract, especially an international one. Mm-hmm. You know, over the years I've done a lot of them, especially with like Kuwait and Iraq and so on. And there it's complex. But, you know, we did a bunch of shows a few years back in India. And, you know, we were talking about dealing with a country where money is not supposed to leave the country. Mm-hmm. And the comment is, if the money doesn't leave the country, the artist doesn't leave this country.
Right.
And you have to be very firm, but always assume that it's a scam before you start until you see the money.
Okay, that's good advice. It turns someone cynical. What I thought was sort of ingenious about this particular scam is that it was appealing to the ego of a
yes.
artist who's already at a certain status level, who's supposed to be a little bit more educated and supposed to be having something that someone's going to pay them $2,000 to go speak on. They knew what my area of specialty was, and that's just a little deeper level than I'm used to. So what I'm hearing is assume it's a scam. Do your due diligence, but be aware that what looked like a scam in the past, there may be a new face of it tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's like a virus.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
really nonstop.
It mutates.
It does mutate.
I mean, if you figure, how many emails did they send that to? How many artists in your area did they send that to? And how many of them sent them that $1,000? So if they're batting, 1 out of every 100.
That's right.
And they sent out 1,000 or 3, 4, 5,000.
There's going
they're
to be
making
some
money.
suckers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, my first move would have been, frankly, if I'd have got that letter from the British Embassy, was to pick up the phone to the British Embassy in Washington, D.C.,
Yep.
and say, I'm going to fax you over a document. Would you please verify its truth?
Yes.
And they would have come back to you probably with a big smiley
As
and said,
as an artist, though, I mean, I know your position because it is feeding that what you're hungry for.
Yeah.
I mean, you wanted to go speak at this.
I
It's
did.
what you do.
I've never been to the British
So
Isles.
I mean, that sends a blind eye to what's real, and that
Right.
happens.
Yes.
It happens all the time.
I tell you what,
I guess
we'll
that's why
we'll
it's
send you
effective.
over there for 4,000, which you also won't get.
All right, well, let's talk about
I'll pay the
something.
second Tuesday of next week. Okay.
Gotta get 50% up front?
Yes.
Yeah, this is
50%
it.
of nothing?
Yeah.
Well, there's a sucker born every day, and I've been in this business for 20 years, and I've not fallen for a lot of scams. I have to say, they didn't get me. I didn't send the money, but boy, they ate up most of my day yesterday, and I fell for it. Took
Still
me a minute
cost
to
you.
figure it
Yeah.
out. But my husband did point out something smart to me at 11 o'clock last night. We put into Google search King's College scam, and I got to read these incredible blogs
Oh, yeah.
where the names were changed, and they had, it was, anyway. Let's talk about something more positive. Youngsters moving to Nashville with
Yeah.
dreams of stardom who want to be singer-songwriters. What are some of the first things that artists should be doing?
Frankly, I would advise them to do what I did. I was living in England, and before I made the move, I mean, I was starting to come here in 1987 and didn't move here until 92.
Okay.
And the best thing is in effect social network, but social network in reality, i.e. come to town, make some journeys, like people like Billy Ray Cyrus did, a lot of songwriters and
Garth Brooks came to
performers
town.
come here frequently. Go and get your network.
Build a base.
Build a base that's a real base, not an internet base, a real base. Get to know other songwriters. Get to write some songs here. This is co-writing city.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. I don't want to, make people think that they can come to town and just get a writing session.
And of course they can't.
They cannot, and you
Not
will
nowadays.
It won't happen. I mean, in the '80s, yes. Even the early '90s, yes.
But even if they write with new writers, but I tell you what I'd get them to do. The first thing before anything, go down and see NSAI, which is Nashville Songwriters Association.
Yeah, great company.
See Sherry Spottieri or Bart Herbison, if they're around. They actually have a scheme for new writers,
That's helpful.
and they will put them through camps. And if you go to songwriter camps, that's great, because I know your mum says, "Oh, you're a fabulous writer." Well, the truth is, you probably aren't.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen to what's coming out of Nashville, and because that's what's selling. Okay, everybody wants to come and I want to be me. That's fine, but if you want to make money being you, you have to conform. And I hate to say it like that, but you have to.
Well, you have to learn to play
Well,
the game.
well,
That's
Yeah.
for sure. You don't
Yeah.
have to give up your
Yes and no.
individuality,
No.
but you have to be willing.
Yes and no. I mean, I still follow, and funny enough, we were having this conversation yesterday on Facebook
Okay.
about this conforming. If people had conformed, people like Christopherson, Willie Nelson, and people like that had conformed, we would never have had these wonderful songs. You still have to do
But
what
that's what
people
people
like,
are looking for.
No, you have to do what people like Lucinda Williams are doing, and that is to broaden the base that people choose. Instead of having cotton candy songs, let's hear a good song.
Well,
because
I kind
good
of
songs
disagree,
do get
but
cut.
it's just like J-Lo breaking out into making fragrances. If nobody knew who J-Lo was
Right.
to begin with, nobody would buy her
Right.
perfume.
Absolutely.
Nobody would be appreciate. I mean, I know Lucinda and watched her struggle for years and years of, in her mind, kind of obscurity before those songs were appreciated. Everybody told her everything under the sun. Your
Yep.
songs don't have a bridge, you know. So I think if you're really an artist and you're willing to starve for 20 years to maintain an artist, but maybe there's a happy medium. Maybe you do learn to write the song that someone else wants to cut while
right.
you work on your other stuff.
I tell you what I would recommend every songwriter to do, and this is like the holy grail.
Okay, good.
Go and pick up every word that's ever fallen from the lips of Bob McDill, because Bob McDill is the wisest songwriter who ever came out of Nashville.
Okay.
If you don't know Bob McDill, you are missing things. He wrote songs like Amanda for Don Williams. A brilliant songwriter. He has these things like, when you write a song, write for Mr. and Mrs. America. Touch them.
Absolutely.
You're not writing for your record publisher or for your publisher or whoever. You are writing for the public, because it's the public that's going to make you or break you.
Yes.
They're going to be the ones who pay $30 or $40 to see a show.
That is very true. And when it comes to the songwriting aspect of it, though, let me know if you agree with me, okay? Okay, I'm not saying to stop being who you are. What I'm saying is that if you want to get a song cut in Nashville, you have to give them what they're looking for, and they're not looking for, oh God, generic music or lyrics, because there's so much talent.
But they are. Do you know the Gatlin brothers?
Yes, of course.
The Gatlin brothers used to have in their publishing house a thing called a cliche spray. And they used, the joke was they would spray the lyrics of a song, and if they had any cliches, they'd all fall off. Now, unfortunately, today, there's an awful lot of cliches that are being written. You know, I go back to the words of Rick Nelson in Garden Party, which is, before you please anyone, you got to please yourself. And I think if you are going to write a song, and as a songwriter, you are up there with other writers, you know, you can either say, yeah, I'm going to be a commercial hack, or you're going to say, I'm going to have integrity.
Well, see,
the best songwriters who've survived and are known, the Harlan Howards,
Yeah,
the John D.
absolutely.
Loudermilk, were not hacks.
No, they were not. But
they-
So you're
those
saying
days are
know your
long
craft,
gone.
know your craft, and know when to compromise.
That's why go to NSAI, because you will learn. It's a learning curve. It's like when you talk to children. You can either talk to children down and go down to their level, or you can bring children up to your level. And because certain songs have been played on radio, which are, to put it bluntly, boring, doesn't mean that you should be guilty of the same offense. You should be trying to raise that craft.
Okay, instead of spending all the money, if you're living out in you know, Vermont, and you're a great songwriter, and you think you're a great songwriter, and people around you think you're a great songwriter, okay, that's not Nashville. Okay, so you might be a big fish up there. Send 3 of your best to someone in town. Send it, and they'll give you their honest opinion. Either stay home, don't waste your money, or come on. What's taking you so
And
long?
I would say send it to Sherry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
NSAI.
send it to anyone at NSAI.
They'll
You know,
listen to it and they'll critique
Okay.
it.
Maggie Cavender, who founded NSAI, who we all love, any of us who met her, miss her dearly, used that phrase, it all begins with a song.
That's great advice. And the question was about people just moving to town and just getting started out. When we have you back on the show, we're going to talk about people who were at different levels.
Sure.
I've
Sure.
been around here since '94. There's advice for me where I could go with my songwriting, or people who've been. There's a lot of gray area between people coming from Vermont and people who've been here for 5 years and trying to take it to the next level. And there's level of nuances all along there. So there's,
Absolutely.
I mean, we can do, you know, an hour on that because that's huge.
Yes, we can.
But David, I have a question for you.
Sure.
When it comes to getting a booking agent,
Yes.
how important is it, and how does somebody go about trying to get one?
Okay. First of all, what I like the artists to do is email me. My email is here on the address here. Email me and you know, send me tickets to your show. If I feel that I can sell you, I'll do my best to do that. But there is no guarantee.
Right.
There is no guarantee. And anybody that can guarantee you in this town, as far as I'm concerned, walk away. Walk away. Because there is no guarantees in the music business. However, there are some very reputable companies in town that are phenomenal. But when it comes to my company, the Roundtable Entertainment Group, we are a family. And Barry, you've seen me at work. I mean, we are a huge family. And every artist, whether you're Joe Nichols or whether you're J.D. Shelburne, you're part of that family. Once you sign that contract with me, for that year or 2 years, whatever we decide upon, you know, you're part of the family for life. It's not just that. It's not just until then. I mean, we've had major artists come out to my personal home and sit around a campfire and just jam.
Right. And how does it work for them? If I were to sign for you and you agreed to start booking me, what percentage do you take?
I take 20% off the top.
Off the top. Okay.
Yep.
But I know that you're not seeing the guarantees because my friends who are famous, who've been touring for 15, 20 years, are not getting the guarantees today
That's
that they
right.
got 10 years ago.
No.
How do you handle that?
That is a curveball. That's a curveball. And that's why a lot of people are going out of business. I mean, I closed my doors for a while. I pick and choose who I want. If the money's right and all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, I'll work with them. But when it comes to just the normal Joe, you better be something special for me to come on board and try and book you.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, I have been doing this a long time. I've been in the music business 20 years. I have a day job. This is my day job. Okay? I love my day job. What do you guys suggest for people? What do you think are good areas for artists?
Backup singer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Backup singer. It teaches
Demo
you
singers.
teaches you how to do harmonies. Because so many singers that I meet cannot do their own harmonies.
It's hard.
I'm one.
Yeah.
I'm one.
Took me a long time to
And
learn
you know,
to do it.
as a record producer,
Yeah.
I mean, we use backup singers because we really don't want to waste time. I'm very fortunate in that one of my artists, Tisa Miller, who's a jazz singer, trained at Juilliard,
Yeah.
and so therefore is capable of doing her own harmonies.
That's unusual. Most people coming to be a country music writer probably self-taught. Who knows how well? But so if you're good enough to be a backup singer, then you could, or a session player.
Yeah.
Well, what about outside of music?
Okay, waiters,
Waiter.
waitresses,
A
you know,
waiter.
all
Wait,
them.
Yeah.
you meet people.
Yeah,
Anyway, you're going to meet people.
Exactly. That's what this business is all about, is networking.
Right.
If you don't have the skills to talk to people and I mean, we just met and I feel like I've known you for years already.
Yeah.
But you know, you got to have that in you. You have to, because if you don't, if you're a clam and you're a shell, no one's going to work with you. No one's going to work with you.
So it's a good thing Bob Dylan made it, because he
Bob
probably wouldn't
Dylan.
have been the best waiter.
Yeah, he's a recluse. He had other things going on. He didn't need to be a waiter.
Yeah. He had a talented son.
Yes, he did.
Well, what are some of your favorite venues around town where you guys like to see? This
Douglas Corner.
Douglas
That's
Corner.
nice, intimate.
Yeah.
But when I want to go see a show, I want to go to the Wild Horse. Puts on a fabulous show. The lighting, the sound, everything is wonderful. Third and Lindsley, small venue,
Yeah.
but awesome.
Gotten bigger though.
Yeah, yes, they have.
Yeah.
They have.
Yeah, Bluebird.
Bluebird, oh my God,
For the
that's
Songwriters, the
historical.
intimate-
Music City Roots.
Yeah, one of the best places to go, honestly, for singer-songwriters is at Debbie Champion's Night at the Commodore Hotel.
Yep.
That is a great night.
What night of the week is that?
It's all week.
Oh,
all
it
week.
is?
Yeah.
But
Oh,
she's
Yeah.
booked months
Go to
ahead.
Nashville Scene. They're all listed.
Yeah, Nashville Scene. will
I know,
tell
but
you.
if I've just arrived from Oklahoma and I open the Nashville Scene, I mean, there might be 30, 40 venues. in
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to them all.
What you need
Yeah.
to do. Now, you can't just get up and play at Debbie's.
Right.
Debbie Champion. I've known Debbie for years. Wonderful singer-songwriter herself. You know, if you're brand new to town and you've never, you just moved here, you go to Debbie's and she will put you on the list at the very end of the night and you audition. Because if you're not good enough for her to want to listen to you, she's not going to put people like us in that kind of torture.
People don't. I spend time traveling around the country. I spend time in Los Angeles and New York City. You would think that those would be good music towns, but I say it all the time. What passes for great music on the live scene in those cities wouldn't even get into a lot of the open mic nights in
You're
Nashville.
right. You're
It's
absolutely
actually
right.
it's beyond that, because I personally have a very good relationship with the AFM in Nashville. All of my sessions are union sessions. One of the things that I've been approached by artists to produce them out of town is, no, you come into town because frankly the best musicians and the easiest to work with are here. They
Number
are all,
system.
I mean, my players are, I have Marcus Finney, who was Donna Summer's drummer. I have Chris Lusinger, who was Garth's guitarist for years.
Yeah, you can pick. You have your pick of so
Dave
many
Pomeroy,
bad
who's
music.
the president of the union, is my bass player.
Who's awesome.
He does
it-
Turbo Kirby, who was Orbison's keyboard player, is my keyboard player.
See, and I have people like Mike Chapman and the bass player for Garth,
Right.
many albums, and there's so many wonderful artists, and the number system is so easy.
Easy. And
I
you know
mean,
who invented that? The Jordanaires.
Yeah.
It's remarkable
Well,
of the
what's
talent.
some of the most critical advice that you would give to someone who wants to get into this industry?
Don't think you're a
Patience.
star when you get here.
Patience.
Okay,
Patience.
good, I like that.
But don't be lackadaisy about it either. Have the initiative to go out and network, because
Yep.
if you do not network, you will go nowhere. I don't care if you're a #1 hit writer, and you very well could be, but if you can't network, it's not doing you any good.
And one of the important things for a songwriter, if you say I want to be a songwriter, I don't necessarily want to be a performer.
Right.
By definition, you almost have to be. It's very difficult to get your songs across if you are not capable of doing singing in the round or whatever format it goes. There are a lot of songwriters who've had hit songs. If they could not have gone out and played them themselves, they would have had, I believe, a lot of problems.
Well, what's the climate like for people who came to town, let's say a Faith Hill, when I first moved to town, who is a singer? Is it possible?
Find a good guitarist.
It's really.
And what
yes,
about those
absolutely.
songs?
Those songs,
Where is it more difficult now in 2012
Yes.
than it was in
Yes.
'94 to
Yes.
come to town just as a singer?
yes.
Yes.
It's more, I have noticed, and we were talking about this earlier, when I first came to town, I was songwriting. I could pick up the phone to people like Don Goodman.
Yep.
I went in to see Bob Montgomery at Tree, and immediately I was writing there. Nowadays, and I've interviewed a lot of hit songwriters who say one of the things that they have to do is to say, okay, do you have a record deal? If you have a record deal, we'll write with you because we know we're going to get a guaranteed cut. Back then, if you go back even further, there are people who, back in the 60s, you could go in to a publishing company, and it happened to people like
But there was
Willie,
only 3 of
happened
them
to
back then.
Hank Cochran. You just played the song. Yeah, we like that. By the afternoon, it's cut.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's not like that anymore. I truly
Well,
am,
there's,
because
there's pluses and minuses.
there is
I think.
there's pros and cons to everything.
But why are you glad?
I'm glad because you don't have the riffraff that come into and I'm not trying to be mean.
I have
but
to
it's
tell
the
you what I've
truth.
noticed in my business, though, is in terms of riffraff, though, everything changed when Pro Tools and computers came along.
Yes.
Because everybody thinks that they can write, record, and produce.
Right. Yes.
And I feel like saying to people sometimes who reach out to me, I'm like, I think this is so sad. Like, if you're reaching out to me because you think I'm some kind of arbiter, like I'm going to be able to help you, that I'm going to listen to your
Yeah.
song. But in a way, it really has opened up the floodgates in terms of who thinks that they can do
Well,
this.
Exactly,
Yeah,
but it's-
in a way, you mentioned Pro Tools. Of course, we've gone beyond Pro Tools. And the studio we use has an Alessi board, which
Right,
is
right, but
which
she's
is
talking about
brilliant
the-
to
Garage
work
band.
with.
Yeah.
I'm talking about garage band.
But I
I'm
think
sorry. One of my favorite things to use if I'm just home recording one of my songs, I love to use GarageBand.
Me
'cause
too.
you
I
hit
think the
record.
mics sound great.
Oh
I
my
think the
God, yeah.
vocals are awesome. But you know what I'm saying? It's like,
But if you're going to get a cut,
right.
okay, have the artist in mind that you're going for, and do it as they would. What was their last hit? Don't do it just like that, but either beef it up or slow it down, whatever you need to do. But just make it happen and,
But
and put it in their zone.
Can I interrupt you there?
Sure.
One of the sad things is, I remember talking with Danny Dill. Danny Dill, a lot of people won't remember, but he wrote songs like Detroit City and Long Black Veil. Now, Danny was one of the best blues singers, and both of those songs were written in that style. He went in and he played it. It obviously, both of those songs became internationally known. One of the problems that you have now is that you put a demo down. If that demo, when you pitch it to an artist, the producer hears it. A lot of producers don't have what I call a real set of producers' ears by saying, you know, frankly, give me a guitar vocal demo and I will do with it how I think it should be for the artist.
Yes, it's kind of like going in to look at a house and not being able to imagine it without somebody stuffing it.
Absolutely.
Right?
If you ever watch HGTV
all the time.
and you see, you know, well, I don't like the colour of the walls.
Right.
Excuse me, paint them.
Right.
You know, and it's the same way with a lot of, and I don't want to say younger producers, but certainly inexperienced producers who cannot see beyond what they are given. Well, how can I change that? It's written like that. Well, how you change that is just say, you know what, send me a guitar vocal demo.
Right.
I'll work on it from scratch.
Right. Okay, so let's kind of wrap things up here on a positive note with our viewers. What are some of the revenue streams in the music industry today that are available to people that maybe they weren't available 10 years ago, but things that they can look towards where maybe they can make money?
CD Baby, for example.
Okay.
iTunes. I
Yeah,
iTunes.
absolutely.
Huge. I mean, there's ways of making money, and if you go on the internet and search, there's a company out there that's, if you have a released song, and I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I have 5 albums.
Yeah. But I mean, you've actually released a song, and they're being spun. There's a company that goes and searches that. And
Sound Exchange?
Yes.
Yes, I just
Thank
got
you.
a check for $1,000 from
Isn't
them
that
out
awesome?
of nowhere.
It's awesome. It's beautiful when that.
But
Yes.
but the best
Love it.
thing, and I'll tell you that record companies use a lot, because we've faced this with artists all the time, is Reverb Nation. You have to really work that.
Yep.
There are secrets, and if you annoy them enough, they actually tell you.
Okay.
And I write nasty letters every couple of days. Why is that
That's
happening?
a manager.
You know, why is that happening? I don't see why that's happened. It doesn't make sense. And suddenly they look at it and say, oh, no, there's something wrong. They're not perfect, but record labels look at Reverb Nation. They look at where you are in terms of band equity and so on, your value. Facebook, they will look at Facebook and say, how many fans do you have? It's like going back to the days when Dixie Chicks signed to Monument. You know, they had 300,000 fans.
But they, you know,
Monument said, that's a hit record before we start.
Yeah, but nowadays you can't even depend on Facebook because they have that thing called a batter-adder. So, you know, you can have 500,000 friends a day. So that's really taken out of the equation when it comes to
Doesn't matter. Record labels look at it. They still look at it.
They're still pretty blind then. Because
So you're saying you still think it's still important to get a record deal to actually make some money? Or do you think
no,
that you
I
can...
think that, frankly, I do not encourage my artists to get a record deal. I think if you have your own album and you have control of what you do, because again it comes down to artistic creation, you actually can turn around and say, what's my overheads if I sign to a label? I mean, I remember the classic story of Laurie White, who her album went gold. She was dropped from RCA a week later. If you have your own CD on your own label, you put it out on CD Baby, you're doing it the same way that Sun Records did it back in the day. It's no different. You're hitting the public. You're hitting all your fans. You're hitting all your potential buyers. You're telling your audience when you play, hey, you know what? You want to buy this? You can either buy it now, which we want you to do, but if you want additional copies, go to CD Baby. Buy your copy there.
Well, you know, everything's relevant in the business. I mean, really it is. Everything goes together. When it comes together, it'll all come together, and everybody will feel it. But you know, if you want to make money in the music business, it all comes down to, you know, a saying that I have for my company. which is it all boils down to dollars and cents. If I'm not making no dollars, it don't make no sense. And that's the God's honest truth.
Yeah, I love that. Well, there's so much more to talk about. I hope you guys will come back and we can get
Sure.
into more
Love
of the
to.
nitty gritty. But
Love to.
I wished when I'd moved to Nashville in '94 that I could have listened to you guys and gotten some advice and avoided
Me
some of
too.
the many, many mistakes that I've made along the way. So hopefully we've helped you out there today. My name is Greta Gaines. You've been watching Music Business Week. Our guests this week are Barry McLeod and David Warren Reed. Join us next week for more unbelievably valuable inside information about the music business. Thank you for joining us. Microcasting for your city, Talkapolis.